Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remasters. Yes, it's real.
Sometimes you get what you wish for.
And you know what this means? Legacy of Kain related content coming your way right now! It has been far too long since we got a new game in the Legacy of Kain franchise. Last one we've seen was over 20 years ago, in 2003 with Defiance.
Centuries had apparently passed.
And hopes were high for the next game that was set to be released later on. But we never got one, and that is not for lack of trying. So elation and jubilation, gamers from all around the world. I am Lucian, the World Gamer. Welcome to my show, where we discuss everything gaming, including cancelled and unreleased games. Like today's topic, Legacy of Kain Dead Sun, the 6th chapter in the Legacy of Kain franchise, which unfortunately was not meant to be. Here is its tragic story.
I am a Soul Reaver. I am not who you think I am.
Over the years, I've spent an irrational amount of hours with the Legacy of Kain series, ever from its inception with Blood Omen, all the way to and after its premature end in 2003 with Defiance. The whole series was awesome. The gameplay was varied, the combat was visceral, and the story, oh the story, it wasn't just what was told that was enticing, but the way it was told, the excellent voiceover, the choices of words, everything felt theatrically Shakespearean, which married the gothic atmosphere of the games perfectly.
Although immortal, his soul could not sustain the flesh, which retained much of its previous human frailty.
These and more are the reasons why the lack of a new chapter in over 20 years is still deeply felt.
Ironic that now I was the one suffering. Not anything as pedestrian as physical pain, rather the cruel jab of impotent anger.
But as I mentioned, it wasn't for lack of trying. After Defiance, a 6th chapter starring Kain started development, known as The Dark Prophecy by Ritual Entertainment, with the assistance from Crystal Dynamics, the previous developers, and was set to be published in 2004 by Eidos Interactive, the then owners of the franchise. This didn't go through, unfortunately, with Eidos cancelling the project after roughly 3 months of pre-production, and before even officially announcing it to the public, leaving only some screenshots and artworks behind.
And a profound sense of injury, of loss and betrayal welled up in me, so overwhelming I could barely contain it.
Years passed, and with the roaring comeback and commercial success of the revamped Tomb Raider series, stars seemed to be aligning for another comeback, that of Rasiel and Kain. That's why in 2009, Eidos commissioned the awesome developers at Climax Studios with finally reviving the Legacy of Kain series. That same year, though, Eidos was acquired by Square Enix, and along with it, our beloved Legacy of Kain franchise. Luckily, Square didn't push for cancelling any inherited project like it usually happens, but actually allowed Climax Studios to continue the development of the new LOK, which will be released on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 and PC. Unluckily though, there were few but very heavy conditions that Square set for the developers.
Nothing is free.
You see, Climax Studios wanted to build on the foundation of the previous chapters and expand on them by building up on the classic characters of Rasiel and Kain. But Square wanted none of that and demanded a new protagonist to be put in their place. Climax obliged, but in all honesty, they did a pretty good job with the new guy. Actually, guys, as in plural. Since Dead Sun was set in a distant future compared to the previous games, also a demand from Square, we will see 2 new protagonists, the vampire Kain and the human Asher, whose souls intertwined for mysterious reasons, in a twist that reminds me more than just a little of the Shadow of Mordor games, and that wouldn't be the last thing reminding me of them. While the lack of classic protagonists of the series was a tad disappointing, I have to admit that the first teaser got me hooked. This guy here meant business, so I don't want to sound blasphemous here, but it felt the legacy of Raziel was carried on with dignity by this new protagonist.
What madness is this?
And this feeling got only stronger once I witnessed the gameplay. I mean, I could totally believe that this game was pushing hardwares. And the art style, look at that, it's gorgeous, and unlike anything available at the time. Moreover, Dead Sun would have offered a big and seamless open world to explore with numerous secrets. The protagonist would have kept Raziel's ability to shift from the physical to the spectral realm, and vice versa. Raziel, Kain, would also be able to climb in a similar fashion to the Assassin's Creed series, as, again, demanded by Square. The combat was said to be better, more complex and responsive than any other previous chapter in the series. Yes, the animations are a little stiff, but remember that this is footage from an unfinished product, and it shows a tremendous amount of potential. In fact, this combat system also reminds me of the Shadow of Mordor, and the Batman Arkham series for that matter. The game would have also featured boss battles with giant creatures, because why not? The overall atmosphere is truly remarkable, extremely moody and unsettling, just like the original games, if a little light on theatrical dialogues, especially compared to the previous games, and that's unfortunate. After being spoiled with some of the most refined dialogues to ever grace the medium.
Damn you, Kain! You are not God! This act of genocide is unconscionable!
What we got here is more like...
Fuck you, vampire.
Yes, as edgy as the late 2000s and early 2010s can be. But in contrast, the power of the newer consoles of the time allowed for big open spaces, and Kain would even be able to fly, or rather glide around. We never had the chance to explore the environment this extensively in the previous games, because the technology was simply not there yet. Dead Sun, on the other hand, was said to be the most ambitious game in the franchise yet, and pushed the console's hardware to the absolute limits, to the point of even being considered as a launch PlayStation 4 title. And this would have certainly helped a lot in assuring a more stable frame rate, which would hiccup a lot in the previous gen consoles. Still, you can tell that Climax Studios was onto something with this, something big. In fact, the budget supposedly started quite small, but then increased to a AAA production, and even went as far to add a multiplayer component, which was yet another firm demand by Square Enix. Moreover, while the budget increased, so did their excessive demands, but the actual staff number from Climax still remained that of a middle-sized studios, while Square Enix was demanding more and more work than the studio could handle, with unreasonable expectations, unhealthy amount of pressure, unclear directions, and an outright obstructive behavior. Climax was simply not put in the conditions to work properly.
They, victors, suffering to the conquered.
This was not the first time, and definitely not the last, that stupid executives who have no idea of how to manage really anything, or any idea of what fans want, hinder the development of a game full of potential.
Proud and self-absorbed, surrounded by all the finery of the realm, secure in their ignorance.
The gaming industry is in a very depressing situation, now even more so than back then, if you can believe it, as I've explained in this video here, link in the description. But anyway, it was clear that the development of Dead Sun was not going smoothly. So not smoothly, in fact, that in 2012, Square cancelled the project altogether. But reports say that they took this decision and left Climax Studio in the dark for quite some time before eventually letting them know of the situation. And that's quite an EA level of BS management here.
EA games.
Fuck up everything. The only part of the game that managed to survive a little longer was the multiplayer portion, externally developed by Psyonix of Rocket League fame. This was repurposed to be a standalone free-to-play online game for PC called Nosgoth, of course named after the land in which the series takes place.
For Nosgoth!
Unfortunately, this only lasted through its open beta phase in 2013, before fading away due to the lack of a player base, a nicer way of saying that basically nobody played it. safe to say that this was not what fans of the series were really looking for. What fans fell in love with was the single-player experience, varied gameplay, deep and complex character, and enticing narrative. That's what fans wanted, that's what we wanted. To save this multiplayer game and cancel the single-player title was exactly the opposite of what we wanted.
The choice is not yours.
It didn't make any sense, and the more I think about it, the less sense it makes. More or less like watching this video and not subscribing. Wink wink. And in fact, the game bombed. Honestly though, Nosgoth itself, I mean the land in which the game takes place, was actually well represented here, with very moody environments, and the gameplay was also looking good, if not for the balance problems which hindered the experience. When this game was published though, that's when the poop hit the fan. You see, Dead Sun was never officially announced, and most of what we know, and that I try to explain to the best of my abilities here, is largely thanks to the investigations conducted by Mama Robotnik. And now the IP is in the hands of Embracer Group, so hopefully they are willing to do more with the IP than Square Enix ever did. One thing I firmly believe though, Dead Sun could have been something great, and no amount of
Fuck you, vampire.
can make me think otherwise. But this is just one guy's opinion on the internet, so now I want to know yours down in the comments. Did you know about the troubled development of this game? What do you think of it? Would you have played it if it had come out? What's your favorite game in the series? Feel free to share your thoughts and memories in the comment section down below. If you want to know more about other console games, I already did videos about Castlevania Resurrection for the Dreamcast and the 2008 remake of Alone in the Dark. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. This way you will always be up to speed with my latest content, and you will also help a fellow gamer out to bring you the best quality content. For you it's just few buttons away, but for me it really does make a difference. But really, I just want to thank you so much for spending some of your precious time watching this video to the end. I will be seeing you in my next one, but until then, stay safe, play safe, world gamers.